All right, and now I'm back. Hello, everyone. This is Roxana again. I'm with the Black Mental Health Alliance. We will be going live all day talking about different mental health topics. Today we had, I think we're on our fourth talk so far. We had Lamont Barnes with us this morning. Gave great perspective on Black men and mental health awareness. Then we had Nia Jones, just a superstar here at Black Mental Health Alliance. Oh my God, you're the right way! At 1 o'clock, we had Susan Smallhood. She was talking about mental health after trauma. And then the amazing Alma Roberts was on with us talking about mental health and art. And now our fearless leader is on. Look, two of our speakers were outside. I couldn't help it. I had to come outside too.
I love it. I love it. You did an amazing job. I'm so mad. I'm so mad I missed Nia's, but I know that it was great. And because I had other commitments, and thank you for holding it down for the for Alma. But I love what she said about art being a movement, right? That the art as medicine. She said art is medicine.
Oh, Regina, try to log on again. Regina's on the call with us.
Oh, okay. Come on, Regina, try to log on.
Yeah, I logged off to restart because y'all, I don't know about Instagram that much.
I think you're doing a great job.
Okay, so go back to our logo now. It should be the new one. It should be on there now. And then I'm going to hand you off to Andrea.
To what's her face?
It's because I stopped and you were already on. Wait, are you going from your phone? Now, y'all, you can't go on live from the computer. You got to go from your phone. That's okay. You got to go from your phone. And I just realized I can go from my iPad. So if you have an iPad, you can, if it gives you that option. Okay, we're going to talk until you get on. All right. Hello, everyone. Andrea, you have Andrea Brown G. You are amazing. She is.
Hey, yeah. Oh, funny. So, that's Don Patrice. That's my best friend in the whole world, forever and ever.
Aw.
That is. And so, hello, need on makeup. I'm sure you probably don't, but thank you for joining us. Thank you. And I just want to give some kudos to Roxana, who put this together for for the Black Mental Health Alliance. It has been an amazing day. We started from the beginning, and hey, Richard, yes, we started early on, and we had a young man join us and talk about the importance of Black men, talking about finding spaces where they can create. And I love even the power shift about how his wife, who's a registered nurse, and hopefully we'll be able to post those. You really don't want to miss them.
Helped me find it.
Oh, nice,
so
nice.
I can repost it on YouTube, and we'll archive it on Instagram once I do that. But I will not ever press delete. Everything will be on the page until I archive it and put it on YouTube.
Sounds good. And I see my other beautiful friend from South Carolina. She said I'm amazing, but just for those of you who know,
she said singing my song.
Her song is "Love Don't Live Here Anymore" because she's not heard from me. but I'm hoping to redeem myself. I know. But I love her. She is.
Why are you not calling people back? Don't worry, guys. Let me get on her. Why are you not calling people back? My aunt does that. I hate that.
You can't get on me now. You gotta wait until
okay. You're right. So, you gotta respond to people. You gotta say hello.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. So we are waiting. We are waiting for our.
Wait, no.
There she is, Gigi the Leo. Is that Roxanne?
Yes,
I mean, is that okay? Ask to be invited, Regina. Uh-oh.
Can we invite? I think I have to get. How did we do it the last time?
Hold on, Regina. Gigi the Leo.
Gigi the Leo. We know you now.
Oh, would love my son to come to where, Trudy? Where do your son to come to where?
To the live?
No, Trudy is saying something. I think we have to get her son on here anyway. We need to do an IG live with him.
She said that.
She said that. Me.
You gotta send us a request.
Send the request.
It's not letting me add you as a.
Because if she sends the request, Regina, send the request.
No, never mind. I can do. Oh, a moderator can't be in a live video. Okay, wait a minute. I know what I did now wrong. So let me remove as moderator. I'm sorry, I got to talk this out so my brain can work.
Yes.
All right, so I just invite.
We will have him on. Hey, Roxana, we need to have.
He does a live mental health Monday. Okay.
And he is amazing, and he's got a story. And I'll share it. When I tell you, you'll be like, "Oh my God, I didn't know." So this is his mom. So we'll talk about that. Hey, Regina. Hi, Regina.
It worked.
It did work. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
Want me to drop off and I'll do the comments? I'll text you guys.
It's up to you. Whatever works for you. I know you probably got to be exhausted.
Now, look.
Oh, that's funny. I love it. So let me just, first of all, Rox, it's totally up to you if you stay or if you go, but I'd like to introduce you to Regina Webb. She is our partner through Kaiser Permanente, but quite honestly, she is a friend and an ally in this work. She is committed to not just her work, but also really lifting up the work of the Black Mental Health Alliance. And just so you know, Regina, it does not go unnoticed. We thank you for it. We thank you for, I'm going to be calling you because I do want that violinist, but that's another story for another time. But I really want to talk to you about, this space that you find yourself in at Kaiser, and as you expand the reach. Can you talk to us a little bit about why and what kind of impact you're hoping to have in your role?
Sure. So I want to thank you guys for inviting me to participate in the marathon today. So thank you for that. As Andrea mentioned, Black Mental Health Alliance has been a partner with Kaiser Permanente as part of our community health outreach initiative. It is known to many of Black Mental Health Alliance clients and members of our community as Good Health and Great Hair. We are able to bring clinical services as well as mental health programming and some other social supports to our barbershops and salons across West Baltimore. And we have won several awards with this program, and it has taken off. We have been able to provide clinical services to more than 8,000 individuals. Most recently with our partnership with GoVax, the state of Maryland's vaccine education initiative. But more specifically about our work with mental health, it is really one of the core areas that Kaiser Permanente is focused on expanding. We have our chief operating officer under community health, our community health officer nationally has announced his dedication to supporting this work. And in the Mid-Atlantic region, through our community health outreach initiative, we will be expanding our outreach in partnership with Black Mental Health Alliance into communities both in DCSM as well as Northern Virginia. And what that looks like is we have been doing these mind health shop talks where we have licensed clinical professionals showing up to support and have open discussions about timely topics that are related to our communities. And again, we will be expanding that into both Northern Virginia and in DC suburban Maryland. And what we're doing specifically in those communities is really targeting some of the topics that are directly related to those communities. In Northern Virginia, they have a high refugee and immigrant population, as well as in parts of DC suburban Maryland, Prince George's County, Montgomery County to be specific. And so we have identified partners in both of those areas that have been open and willing to allow us to come in and to have some of these timely conversations. So some of the topics that we've discussed offering are domestic violence information for survivors. That is a high need area in that specific community. Drug addiction and information for parents and families is another topic. Overcoming the stigma around mental health when it comes to transitioning from one world to another. What does that look like, and how does that affect a person's mental health? So we really want to have those same timely targeted discussions with some of our other Black and Brown communities in both Northern Virginia and in DC suburban Maryland. So we're really excited about bringing Black Mental Health Alliance and sharing them with our communities across the Mid-Atlantic.
So Regina, first of all, that was a mouthful, but I really want to say thank you on another level, and that is just for making sure. Let me just tell you something. It is not without challenge sometimes to make sure that people see the importance of a Black and Brown mental health agenda, right? And so, Regina, your voice, as with Alma's kicking it off, right? To bring us aboard for this work, this critical work in communities of color, has been a second to none. And you're a fiery little something. I didn't realize how spirited you were, but I appreciate that, because what that says is that people who are under-resourced, often the underdog, will not be forgotten. And so kudos to you in that you are using this platform, right, to broaden, not to just expand Kaiser's work, but to expand support for people who look like us. And so I like, it is tremendous. And I think we will see a community in a real way that will begin to heal the refugees, right? I think we'll see communities who are caring. And one of the things that we're talking about later today is caregiving while Black, right? Oftentimes we have no idea the toll that takes on us. And so again, your voice in this moment is critical. And so I don't want to take any of that for granted. And we can't say it enough, because if not you, then who, right? And so we often talk about, oh, we raised the banner, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is how we raise it. And so I love to talk about, as you talk about the expansion, what kinds of things should people be expecting, right? So, we do the conversations, which are wonderful. And so for folk who don't know, and you said it very eloquently before, we were going to beauty shops and salons, and in the Black community, our stylist is our gatekeeper, right? She's seen us give birth. She's seen us say goodbye to people we love. She's helped us through divorce. I mean, they really are, in a lot of ways, these sort of mental health responders without being mental health responders. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your thinking around, while this won't necessarily be in a beauty shop and salon, how we shift, right? So that people see this as just as influential and impactful.
Sure. So I definitely see this as an opportunity for us to engage with our community leaders in several of the organizations that we've reached out to. I think that in the same way that we know that the salon is our safe space, we want to make sure that we are identifying those safe places within those communities. So we will be having those conversations with our community partners to identify some of those locations. They not necessarily be barbershops. Some people I talked to said that it could be a lawn or a soccer field or some church, a faith-based place, a place where people go to get their spiritual ground. Those are some of the places that our community leaders have mentioned to us as possible locations where we might get the best group and get the most participation. Some of those locations, so it will be at some of our community-based organizations. They all go support services to receive resources. So we will start there, but we will also take the time to listen and to identify additional places where they are. We definitely want to meet them where they are in order to help them best.
Excellent. I think, going where the need is the bottom line, and going where we know that people will be. I love, love, love. We have, some work with some inside laundromats, right? And that while that sounds like it is like, oh my God, who's coming in a laundromat? The truth of the matter is people are, right? And so we go where you are. So I love the churches. I love that. But I think it sends a larger signal. When we go to the places that matter to folk, then they know that their healing matters to us. And so you talked about safe spaces, and one of a good partner of ours often talks about the creation of a safe space is important, but also a brave space, right? So we dare to go wherever we can to make it brave for you. And so again, I like the thought of, our not just going into a community saying we're bringing this, we're saying, where do you want us to be? And then what do you want us to talk about? So I think that is a wise on the part of Kaiser. But for you as a leader in this space, I think that speaks volumes to what we know what the success of the program will look like. And so nice. So Trudy, I saw that about the Emmanuel 9, and so you haven't said anything but a word. Just reach out to Roxanne and we will work it out. Are there any questions in the chat about some of what Regina has discussed? And because I don't want to miss it, Roxana.
I didn't see any in the chat. Okay. I saw Dr. Tati was on, so I don't know.
Hey, Dr. Tati, yes.
But I also wanted to say, Regina, it was funny. We had to put a pause on Mind Health Shop Talks for a while, and I remember I was just thinking about Regina, and I was like, if this is not Regina's doing. And I remember Andrea not believing me so much because she's more of a not a cynical person, but she lives more in the truth than I do with stuff. And when Regina and I had talked, I just remembered how, and I don't know if you remember this, Regina, but we were talking about taking mental health trainings into schools and stuff, and you were like, we were talking about doing events, and you were really passionate about making sure that we were doing something that was really having a lot of impact, especially with young people and mental health. And that always that has stuck with me, that that was really important to you, to make sure that we were still providing some kind of impact that was more than just a one-off event.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got to hear that, because it looked like your internet was still connecting.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it
Yep,
was
I can hear
going
you.
in and out for me, but I don't know if
It was going in and out for me too, but I thought it was me because it's always my internet.
It's definitely always my internet.
No, no, that would be my story. I'm like, look, the digital divide shouldn't even be impacting me, but I'm impacted, right? Um, so, so I am. So, Regina, let me ask you a question. And we hadn't discussed this in our as we were, as we're fleshing out what this looks like. How do we specifically help children in this space?
So, well, Roxanne and I did have a few discussions about some topics, and I think some of the things that rose to the top, just in our conversations with both community partners and some of the things that we identified as areas amongst my colleagues were mental health and social media.
yeah.
Young people are so influenced by social media, and it has, and you have seen the rates of suicide constantly increase and increase over time, and it is a directly correlated with social media. So I definitely want to see some programming, or would like to plan some programming that is directly focused on positive ways to use social media, and really identifying some of those areas where social media has caused such self-esteem issues amongst our young people, from body shaming to just, the committing suicide, like I mentioned, are just one or two of the areas that that young people are influenced by when it comes to social media. So that is a topic. And then another area is around young people and violence. Gun violence continues to be an issue, specifically in Baltimore City. And so we've had some discussions about what are some different ways we can talk about violence. Could it be conflict resolution? Could it be finding other opportunities for young people to engage, even when they have challenges or difficulties with each other? So we definitely want to see programming around those topics that we have seen such increases in violence and trauma amongst our young people.
So I'm glad you raised that. Earlier today, two things. Earlier today, we had a young man on, and he talked about, creating this. He talked about social media and, almost the lies, right? And how young people have bought into the lies. He said his life or her life doesn't look like that all the time. And so I love that you raised that. And I gave a presentation at noon today. And one of the things that I talked about is that since 2017, suicide has been the second leading cause of death for among 10 and 19-year-olds. Second leading cause, Black people, right? Black people, men and boys, the second leading cause. And that just, the thought of it makes me, clutch my pearls. But the thought that we are going to have a conversation around it, I think is going to be critical. And I will say this. One of the things that we are doing is we are teaching a cohort of young people to teach a cohort of young people, right? So although they don't have MSW behind their name, but we are teaching a cohort of young people to be able to teach other young people so that they are clear that they are not their trauma, right? But what does that look like? They understand about triggers, and they understand that therapy isn't a dirty word. They understand that, they understand the importance of not body shaming, right? And so we are training up a cohort of young people to speak to other young people. So I'm excited to hear that that's included in, so that's been something that you and Roxanne have been talking about, because I think that if we don't, it will be to our peril if we don't address it. So, so again, thank you for raising that. And so are there any questions in the chat? I know that we've got a few minutes, and I don't want to miss anything that Regina has to add? Go ahead, Roxana.
I was going to say, we don't have any questions in the chat, but actually Regina was the one who was recommending about social media. We're also going to have partners because we didn't do that before, Regina. Remember, you had said we're going to have people in the community telling us what they want to discuss. And I think that will also have a lot of buy-in if the young people that are attending will not only be attending, but they actually, like they took my idea and this is what we're talking about now. So I think that'll be helpful as well. And Regina, I don't think you pumped up enough that you've expanded out the whole mental health piece all throughout Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, pump that up some more, Regina. Come on, Regina.
Okay, so to just add on to what Roxana said, we in our discussion to identify some topics that we have reached out to several of the community schools coordinators to really help us with identifying some topics, but also to kind of help steer us in the right direction, because they are the individuals who are directly hearing and seeing what is going on in the schools. So they will be a valuable resource in sort of guiding us through planning and developing that work. But to also just reiterate our programming, our mental health programming that we are continuing to do with Black Mental Health Alliance. We will be offering or expanding our Mind Health Shop Talks, which may be called community conversations in some of our other service areas, but we are expanding that programming across our region into Northern Virginia and into DC suburban Maryland, which includes Prince George's County and Montgomery County. We've identified several organizations that support both refugees and immigrant populations that have raised their hand and waved their hand in wanting to include mental health programming as a part of the services that they offer their clients. So we are looking forward to offering at least on a pilot, through our pilot, at least two to three programs in those service areas. And hopefully, if this continues, we will be able to offer more consistent programming in both Northern Virginia and Prince George's and Montgomery County in 2024. So we are looking forward to that. And I can't thank Black Mental Health Alliance enough for being willing and able to expand into those other service areas. So we look forward to more to come on programming in both of those service areas.
Well, Regina, thank you. We can't. Oh, I'm sorry, Roxana. We can't thank you enough. Oh, no, I was just gonna say we can't thank you enough, because this really isn't a moment. I mean, this isn't a moment. This is a movement, and this is our moment to be in the movement. And so, super excited about that, and really can't think of. I'll say you, and I think about Dr. Toddy, like walking in this space with anybody else right now but you guys. Roxana, did you want to say anything before we close out?
I was just going to say, Regina, thank you. And I know we had also talked about having a component to expand out, having some kind of therapy support outside of the talk. So we're going to see how we can really make that accessible to people who don't have insurance, or maybe you have insurance but you don't have that piece. So we're going to be working together to bring that to the communities. And I don't know if you want to really quickly talk about the insurance that you're working on, Regina, so that people can.
Sure. So I can mention that briefly. So one of the things that we are also supporting is the Medicaid redetermination work. As you know, many of you may know, because you're in healthcare, that once the public emergency ended regarding COVID, that triggered many individuals not being renewed, not getting their Medicaid insurance renewed. So that will happen over the next 12 to 18 months. So several 100,000 individuals will lose their health care coverage if they do not renew. So we have been working to get the word out and to educate individuals on how to sign up, when they can renew, what types of coverage is available for them to sign up for. We have a partnership with Healthcare Access Maryland, who has been and will be attending many of our events that we have scheduled out in community to actually help individuals sign up for their Medicaid coverage. I can definitely give you some links to share, Roxana, so that you can also make sure that all of your clients are aware. I know that you guys have already agreed to support that work with us, but there is a whole social media campaign behind it. There are resources available, and we will be out in community putting boots to the ground. We've identified several partners that will be trained to support this work and to help us to get the word out and promote Medicaid redetermination so that no one goes without health care coverage.
Thank you, Regina, because Andrea always says this, but when the community gets a cold, the Black community, they really feel the impact. They get the flu, right? So we got to make sure that people are still getting covered and they have access to that care, which includes mental health care. Alma had talked about that in the beginning of the hour. So we are so glad that you were able to
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Regina.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. It wasn't terrible, Regina, right?
It was painless, right?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, a big shout out to Alma for getting it started, and for Regina just carrying the torch, right? She passed the mantle, she carried the torch, and we are the better, and so are our community for it. And Roxana, thank you for raising up when white America gets a cold, the Black community gets pneumonia. Not just the flu, pneumonia. And
pneumonia,
so,
I'm sorry. Yes.
So it is, So it is critical that we act. It is critical that we do these necessary things. And quite frankly, that we have these conversations. And so I can't wait for the next one. So we are looking forward to it. So thank you for helping us with the IG takeover today.
Thank you, Regina.
No problem. One last thing I want to mention before.
Now she got a commercial she want to give. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Regina.
So I just wanted to mention that Kaiser Permanente is a proud sponsor of AFRAM, which is scheduled for June 17th and 18th. And we will be there volunteering to support all of the efforts that are happening. But more importantly, we have a Mind Health Shop Talk scheduled on the health and wellness stage on Father's Day. It will be on the topic of men's health. And we have identified partners from both Black Mental Health Alliance, thank you, as well as some of our community partners and our barbershop and salon partners that will be participating in this conversation, as well as one of our Kaiser Permanente physicians, Dr. Kwame Akoto, will also be participating in that conversation. So please look out for us. During AFRAM, we will be there to engage in that men's health conversation, as well as have our mobile health van will also be on site, providing clinical resources and some clinical services as well. Thank you. That is all I have to say.
Thank you for that shameless
That was a good
plug.
reminder. I forgot.
That's right, and we'll put that in our newsletter as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Let's see how Hey, Rox. Hey. So I think our next
have Miss Annielle is coming.
Yes.
Can I get? So you know what? Can you send me a request?
Me?
Miss Annielle?
I'll drop off and then I'll send you a request.
No, not you're already on. We need her because I think you said
Okay, I'm sorry.
Unless you want to drop off.
No, I'm good.
It's not giving me an option to bring you up.
It was Great to have you, Trudy Boo.
Trudy Boo.
Trudy Boo is my friend, and she's a singer, so don't sing. But Trudy, all jokes aside, you, Roxana, and I should talk about having Ray. I think that'd be, I'll check my email. She said check my email. Okay, I'll check my email.
Hold on, Annielle, I'm texting you to send a request.
Okay. Oh, not me. Okay, wait a minute. I got to change some lighting here. Wait a minute.
I know. I think this is going to be my last live outside. The bugs are trying to get me.
Oh, spray. It looks great outside, though.
It's very nice outside, but it's like the cotton stuff is going, bugs are coming out. Everyone decided to come outside at the same time today.
But we can't hear them. That's funny. We can't hear the bugs or the birds, so you're doing good. Yes, you are doing good.
Oh, Alma said we did nice work. Thank you. Regina was great.
I thought Regina was great, and I'm so glad Alma came because I was like, let's get her. So that was good. I think, you know, she's in this space, but I have to say this. The only thing that I'll say is, you know, I hope people hear these again because in a lot of ways, people are talking about how to hit the reset button, right?
Yeah.
Somebody earlier said at
Not
50, right. At 50 they started something. Hello.
Hi.
How
Hello.
are you?
I am great. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. So I don't know if you got to meet Andrea Brown, our executive director, the last time. No, we did live, and you didn't get to meet her. So guess who is leaving us today?
Oh, really?
So yeah, she is funny.
So we
yes.
have Andrea Brown with us, the executive director of BMHA. Annielle Timmons, you are really like an inspiration for a lot of reasons, but you're going to be talking about how having a mental health coach, or not a mental health coach, but having a coach, a life coach, really help your mental health. So we're excited to have you.
Awesome. Absolutely. I've had coaches, I've had mentors, I've had therapists, I have a therapist. So absolutely.
And you're a coach.
and I'm a therapist. I'm about to finish my licensure in a couple of months. So yeah, I have all the experience. So I'm excited to share all the things.
Yes, and I know you just came off of a training, so we're very glad that you were able to spend a little bit of time with us. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're gonna have some questions for you. They're gonna be hard.
Oh, I'm excited.
No.
I love a good question. There's nothing off limits with me. So childhood trauma survivor, you know, raised like many of us, beautiful Black people, raised by a single parent mother, who worked hard to make ends meet for my siblings and I. In my childhood, we experienced homelessness, had a stepdad who was on drugs, and saw domestic violence. Father wasn't in my life until about my late teens. So I grew up with low self-esteem, you know, and like most young girls who grew up without a father and low self-esteem, you know, I went in the streets to look for boys. Not literally like I was prostituting or anything, but just kind of like looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a part of my story, but if it was, you know, I would share that.
Yeah.
But, you know, just look for love in all the wrong places. Went through a public humiliation in my teenage years, and that I was ostracized by the whole school, even was kind of confined to my room, went through an extreme depression, had anxiety, was suicidal. And I remember at that time in my life just kind of crying out to God, like, God, if you can just fast forward my life so I can get through this pain. And so, you know, even after that, the guilt and shame still tried to follow me. You know, I was constantly reminded about that mistake I had made in high school. And, you know, it took a lot for me to pass that guilt and shame. And that when I became 18, my dad saw the need I had for healing and wanting to overcome. And so he introduced me to a mentor who was a successful life coach, and she had a successful $1 million business, and she wanted to do a courtesy to my father. So she agreed to mentor me for 1 hour a week on the phone for 6 months. And during those conversations, when we started meeting, I would always talk about my past, and I would always talk about people. And every time we got on the phone, I would bring up something that happened in my past, or I would tell her like, hey, you don't know what I did. You don't know that mistake I made in my teenage years. And I remember one day she got so frustrated and she cut me off and she was like, Annielle, you know, I don't want to hear any more about your past. She said, your past is already gone. We no longer can do anything about your past. She said, all you have and we have is your present and your future. And she said, if you want to change your present and change your future, I can help you with that. And so I got quiet. I was silent for a while because what she said to me was a foreign language. I had never heard anyone in my life at that point say like, hey, your past doesn't matter. You're actually free to move on and you're not held accountable for those mistakes you made. And so me and her continued to work together. That was a pivotal point for me. And a couple months later, during another one of our sessions, I remember her saying, Annielle, all of your problems are people's problems. And she said, you care excessively about what other people think of you. And she said, it probably is coming from your childhood and in your past. She said, I suggest that you work on it, or if not, you're going to suffer from low self-esteem for the rest of your life. And she was very candid. And so we got off the phone, and to be frank with you guys, like, I was upset. I was offended because I was like, who says that to people so candidly? You have low self-esteem. And so I went about a couple months without talking to her. And as the months went by, I realized that all my problems were people's problems. And a lot of, you know, how I was feeling and the concern I had about people liking me was coming from my childhood and my past. And I looked into it and I did have low self-esteem. And so that was kind of that point of a turning point, paradigm shift when I began to study self-esteem. I began to work on myself. I even went to therapy, became a Christian. It was just, that whole season was just kind of this rewriting my narrative. And that's one reason I kind of talk from that place of vulnerability, that, you know, it's all about what you believe about yourself. And it's all about putting in the work so that you can rewrite and change and own your story.
I know, Andrea, you're thinking.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, you said, which I made a note. You said, you know, after she told you, you say, who says that, right? First of all, somebody who understands how important it is to help you move, right? That's the first thing. But I get it. And the second thing you said, and we didn't talk for a couple months. And what I was thinking about, I was like, well, I guess she showed her, didn't you? But the truth of the matter is she was trying to show you. Right. And so, and as we think about, we were talking today earlier about how she didn't use the word, Roxana didn't use the word reset, but how, you know, changing your mind matters, right? And so, and changing the conversation about what you say about yourself. So I love that, first of all, that you shared very, you know, your transparency, right? And your bravery about saying this thing I did as a teenager, blah, 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 you know, this public shame, this public humiliation. And so, and I think the other part is you said something that, you know, your coach said eventually, or, you know, Annielle you, or Annielle this, right? And so she called that thing what it was. And oftentimes people don't call that thing what they are, you know. They don't. And we have a tendency, for a lot of reasons, to sort of tiptoe around things, right? And so I'm convinced the fact that it was called out, she called you by name, and the other steps, right, is what we see in front of us. Like this, you know, this beautiful, amazing, fearless woman, right, in front of us, who is sharing this story. And if I could say to you, I love the way that you have chosen your words. And so let me tell you what I mean by that. Because oftentimes we aren't careful enough. But you said, you know, my story was, I was raised by this, you use the word brilliant or beautiful, something about your single Black mother, right? And I think that's so powerful. Instead of saying, I was raised by a single mother, blah, blah. It was, you know, you said, look, by this brilliant woman, right, who raised me. And so I really want to thank you for the way you choose your words. And I'd like for you to share with us you know, as you talked about how you got to this right now, right? How choosing your words and acknowledging your stuff, right, has been pivotal for you.
Absolutely. It was a work in progress. So during that period of having to be vulnerable, because, you know, change starts with vulnerability, right? Because if I didn't show my mentor my true authentic self and share with her, hey, these are my thoughts, I am concerned about what people think of me. You know, I am still rewinding the tape of that mistake I made in my childhood. Now, I did not share that because I'm embarrassed. It's just a long story, and I wouldn't do it any justice if I rushed it. But I say all that to say that I had to be vulnerable, and I had to have a tough look at myself and be willing to pour that out to someone. Because even as a therapist, I see people come in and they always like want to sugarcoat, or they don't want to be transparent about those thoughts and those tendencies. And if you can't be transparent, then you truly may never get your breakthrough, right? And so, albeit it was tough, albeit she was very candid, and she still is, you know, everybody's different, but I needed it. God knew that she was what I needed at the time. But it took my naked, vulnerable self to really pour that out so that I could receive that help. And everybody's not there because her words were piercing. It wasn't like I wanted to go without talking to her. My feelings were hurt. I did have low self-esteem, and I didn't want to believe it. You know what I mean? And when you're being vulnerable, sometimes a harsh word, you know, can be very piercing. You know, however, when you take a step back and you consider it and you take the emotions out of it and you say, okay, is this person being helpful or hurtful? Were they trying to hurt me, or were they trying to help me? And when I took a step back, I realized, like, even though it was very candid and a rough delivery, she was right. You know what I mean? And she meant well, and her words really transformed and changed my life. You know, and that I don't regret it. I don't take anything away from it, because it was a journey. It was a very arduous journey for me to realize I had low self-esteem at the age of 19, and to really come to terms like, yo, if you do not work on this, you will suffer, like she said, for the rest of your life, you know, because there's not a time in your life where you will not need unbreakable, unconditional self-love and self-esteem, you know, especially as a Black person, when the weathers of life and the microaggressions and the racism and the discrimination and all those things are thrown against you, along with all the other things we face as being human beings. Right. You know, there would never be a time where you wouldn't need self-confidence and self-love, right? Self-compassion and forgiveness. And so it was a road, and that I did the mentorship with her. You know, I began to throw myself into my healing. I researched self-esteem for about 10 years, which is why one of my specialties is self-esteem and confidence and trauma. So, you know, I did the self-esteem work. I did all the cognitive exercises, the visualization, you know, the self-image assessments and reframing my thoughts and the cognitive restructuring. I went to therapy, not just one time, but the different cities and college that I moved to, I was getting therapy. You know, I was like the only one in my family that I knew of at the time getting therapy. So I also had to overcome that stigma. You know what I mean? And that other people may not agree with me going, you know, and I had to kind of like overcome those first initial feelings of, am I crazy, or am I weak for doing this? And then as I kept going, the stigma, you know, became removed, and I realized, like, no, I'm actually wise. You know, this is actually a strength. This is actually helping me. This is good for me, you know, and even did medications that have been extremely helpful for me, and that I learned that I had anxiety and I had PTSD. I no longer meet that criteria, but at the time of, you know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I had PTSD. And, you know, I needed a anxiety medication. And I also in grad school found out I had ADHD, which I kind of knew I did. But it was showing up in the sense that I had so many things, moving parts going on in my life, that I had to balance school and working full time. And I was in a church group, and I was speaking on the panel at church, and I had a new apartment, and I realized, like, girl, you are not balancing all this stuff. You're not finishing your stuff at work. You barely want to read this this long article and you're skimming it and you got to go back and read it 10 more times just to try to understand it.
Yeah.
And so the medications have been very liberating for me. And I do share that, like ADHD and, you know, having that medication helping me focus brought me to a balance. Like, I didn't know what it felt like to actually be able to hold your attention on something, you know? And so, yeah, it was a journey, and it still is. I still have a therapist, you know what I'm saying? And it's just been very helpful for me.
So I love that, you know, oftentimes people think, you know, it's like 3 steps and I'm straight, right? But sometimes healing and therapy can be a lifelong journey. Healing, I believe, is a journey, right? But, you know, sometimes we think, oh, I went to a therapist, that didn't work. Well, how long did you go? 2 weeks? You probably should give some strong
That's 2
consideration to going
sessions.
back. Right. You should probably give some strong consideration to returning. And so, you know, and oftentimes, and even in that, there is a fit, right? God said today was so powerful this morning. He said, you know, he said, I had a therapist who I absolutely love, but he's finishing up some graduate work. And so for a couple of months or whatever, he's not doing, I can't see him. And I had somebody else who was, you know, as black as he was, but horrible. And he said, you know, but I knew I needed it, but I knew it didn't fit. He said, but just like we buy shoes, it's like, that's not the best fit. But we don't not wear shoes, we find another pair. And so we've got to think about therapy like that, right? So maybe that therapist wasn't the right fit or isn't the right fit, but we have to commit to we've got to first commit to and then we've got to commit to, you know, I'm going to keep trying it on until it works. And then we met with someone, I guess, I don't know how Roxanne has been doing this all morning, like 2 IGs ago, right? I'm like, girl, I feel like I'm drunk, and this is only my 3rd one, right? But we talked to a woman, and she talked about our mental health. We have to make it a priority. And she said, just as we go to the doctor for our physical and we get, you know, a workup done, we get blood work done, and then we make the necessary steps. She said, we've got to do the same thing with our mental health and what fuels us. And so I appreciate you are saying, yep, that was then, but even now I have a therapist. Even now, these are the things I need to do.
And I'm glad you said a point about, it's kind of like, I always say dating your therapist, in the sense of dating derived from the word data. You're collecting data. You're trying to figure out if you like this person, if you get along with this person. Even me as a clinician, I have been to therapists where I'm doing therapy with them. It's like the moment they figure out that I'm a speaker and I'm a clinician and I'm a life coach, they talk and unload. I've had times where I got off there like, whew, dang, who's the client here? You know, so you got to get to know them, you know. And in retrospect, I had another therapist who, she was actually like just sitting there. Like, it was like I didn't have a personality, wasn't engaged with me. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like, lady, tell me what you think. What, like, are you judging me? How you feel? And I realized, like, it's important, though, to have a match, because for somebody else, they might have just unloaded and kept talking and And I had to go find another therapist, even me as a clinician, you know, because clinicians, you know, and helpers, we need therapists as well. That's important. But it was kind of like, wow, like, she wasn't a good fit, but that didn't stop, like you said, just like a pair of shoes.
That's right.
A pair of shoes, yeah.
And he said, which I thought was, I didn't laugh. Well, I wasn't on the screen, thank God. So actually, I think I did laugh. He said this therapist that was sort of, that he had gone to, fell asleep while he was in session. He said he fell asleep while I was in session. He said, and then he went back and forth with me like he didn't. And so this is true. This was all. And so, but what I found refreshing is that he made his health a priority. And he said, I got to find somebody else until my regular dude come back, right? He said, because this isn't going to work. But what I know is I need it. I got to wear shoes, right? So I just got to find the ones that's going to give me some comfort till I get to upgrade to my other shoes, right? And so, and I just thought that was such a powerful thing. And I'm grateful that you shared it, because oftentimes we think, or people think, we go through these spaces and it's one and done. Oh, that didn't work for me. Well, maybe that's not the right allergy medicine for you, but you didn't stop taking it. I mean, you got another one. You asked for another prescription. And I think the other thing, and Roxanne, by all means, if it's anything in the chat, if it's anything in the chat, but there's something else that you said that I just thought, what an honor for you to share that. And you talked about the point of needing medication, right? And so, oftentimes, even as adults, we have this thought of, I don't want to take medication. Ask me how I know, I didn't want to have an epidural when I had my baby, but I was in labor 3 days in a blood transfusion. I wish I'd have had that epidural. But anyway, but my point is, if we needed glasses, we'd have them, right? Mm-hmm. Glasses because I'm nearsighted, glasses because I'm whatever. But our resistance to medication is, I think, yet another thing that sets us and holds us back. So thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. And, whether that's lifelong, whether that's not, right? But thank you for sharing it because, your voice really lends people to want to be healed. Mm-hmm. And so I appreciate that. Rox, I'm sorry. Is there anybody in the chat that has anything?
Hollywood D, also known as my daughter Dominique, said, I like your truthfulness.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, D.
And I think it always makes it where I think seeing a therapist and a coach who had a coach, and say their whole process, that helps. We had a training a few months ago with Dr. Kevin Washington, and he talks about how the therapist has to, bring all their stuff in the room, and unless you're interacting with your the person that's presenting with you at the same time, it's you're not really being authentic, and they won't get healed. He was like, if you're not sharing in a way with them, it's they won't get healed. So that just made me also realize, what you're saying, if someone just sits there and they're just like, oh, wait a minute, oh wait,
or how do you feel?
Yeah. Right, they're not going to get what they're supposed to get out of that. But I was also thinking about what you said with your dad, that he noticed you needed help with healing. I think a lot of times with my kids, I do miss things, but it's sometimes I will get that moment wait a minute, they need help. And just the fact that he noticed that was what you needed help, you were like, okay, mm-hmm. I'm gonna go ahead to this mentor, Dad. I'm gonna do it. But you really leaned into it too, and I think that's such a big part of your story as well, that you leaned in, even if you're oh no, I don't want to do this. It's you still leaned in, and that's what's helpful for you to be a coach for someone else, because I'm sure you had to have those harsh words with someone and be I know you don't want to hear it, but this is it. You got it. You got to hear this. And if you don't get it, you're not going to progress to that next level. And I'm sure that's what you thought for you.
Yeah, it's that proverb that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And that people can come to therapy and not be ready for the change. People can't, because some people are forced to come to therapy. It might be court order. It might be because of their wife. It might be because of some crisis that has happened in their life.
Right.
And so I am grateful that I've been so desperate in my life for healing. I heard a quote that said, chase healing with the same intensity used to chase love. And I've just always wanted to be better, that it was almost too painful to stay the same. And so I believe when someone becomes desperate and hungry enough and they've had that pain for so long, it's almost you're forced to change, and then it's kind of the vulnerability is just an easy byproduct, because you can't even remain the same,
Yeah.
Wow, that's so powerful. This whole notion around chasing healing with the same intensity you chase love, right?
Or money, or beauty, or
right,
all the
right. That's right, right, or any of those. But I love it. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, what we see on the internet, right? Well, social media, right? And how, we often, hear about, there's body shaming and this and that. And I'd love for you to sort of talk to us, or talk to, as if you were talking to young people about, you know, um, about body image and body shaming, and how all of that plays into your mental health, and that there's a space for them not to um, not to exchange the truth for a lie.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, really good. So I think social media, and I think now with people in general, we're being so bombarded with a type of body, right? The world has been known for that, pushing the agenda of a certain body type and wanting us women to assimilate to that particular body type, right? And so even me, like I said, 10 years ago at the age of 19, seeing social media just kind of becoming more prevalent, seeing all these different bodies and being so critical of myself. I remember when I was younger, I got stretch marks early on. And I remember like feeling so insecure about my stretch marks. I have discoloration in certain parts of my body. I'm like 5 different skin tones, depending on what area you see. And I remember like my extremely dark parts of my body, I would feel very ashamed about. But I also went to a white school in my high school year. I went to a white school where it was like all of those microaggressions about you're pretty for a black girl, or you would look better if you were this skin tone, or look at such and such, she's pretty, look at her skin. Just all these little things. And I even think too, when I was growing up, I don't know if you guys are familiar with hip hop. You heard all about the red bones and all about the light skins, all about the yellow bones. And so it's all of those things being bombarded, especially for a black woman, about how you should look, the skin color you should be. And so someone said social media can warp your perception on what's real and what's fake. Exactly. Because even then, right, just like Quincy Poet says, you're being bombarded with people who promote working out. They promote fitness. They promote eating healthy. But yet you done laid up. No offense. For one, let me just say, I think anybody, and I do love a good snatched waist, so don't get me wrong. For the people who listen who might have a BBL, I'm not taking nothing away from you. But you see also a lot of people saying, oh, do this, do that. And you're thinking like, oh, snap, like I'm in the gym, I'm eating, I got this salad, I'm doing all these things. And they had a little help. Let's just be honest. They had a whole lot of help. And so it's almost like, and you also see the women who over the years, they look different. Their faces are looking different. Their bodies are looking different. They're becoming addicted to this plastic surgery. So it's like almost, you can also see they're still struggling. Even with all the thousands of dollars they put in their body, they're still struggling with self-acceptance and loving themselves and the competition, or feeling like they're in comparison. So truly, you got to love yourself, period. Point blank and period. And I use myself as an example because I have stretch marks. I have discoloration in my skin. I take care of the skin, you know what I'm saying? But it's dry. Like I take care of it. I have my routine, y'all. So it's not like I don't have my routine, you know what I'm saying? I use my good quality lotions and everything. But you just have to fall in love with yourself, because someone will always be telling you that you're not looking like this. Oh, your stomach could be flatter. Oh, you shouldn't have those dimples or this or that, comparing yourself. But truly, when you learn to embrace and love yourself, you don't give a crap about, how you look or what. You just begin to love yourself. It's a season of your life where you gain 15 pounds. If a season of your life where, you just struggling to wake up and you might not be shaving your legs. You just love, learn to love every part of yourself and be okay with you, because that beauty standard will always be pushed and it will always be changed. Like at one point in time, it was all about having huge boobs, right? Now it's about having the hourglass, and it's about having a huge butt. So it is what it is, y'all. You just, you know what I'm saying? And so that's one thing I would say, is to like really learn to love yourself, research self-esteem. Like my mentor told me at the age of 19, one of the most life-changing things I have done. And I might, you know what I'm saying? Like in my 20s and in my teens, I might have not done a lot of things right. But working on my self-esteem and confidence and building my relationship with God were all things that I did well, and have laid a foundation for me to even be a speaker and pursuing goals and be working on myself even now. So self-esteem work, confidence work, learning to embrace yourself. I don't care who you are, what you look like. I don't care what's your weight, what kind of flaws, perceived flaws you may have. Learn to love yourself.
I love that. That's so powerful, and I'm grateful you raised that, because I think there are times when we are just never satisfied. Like, when is enough enough? Even unto death, right? It's like, I got to get this latest thing. I can't get out of the A cup. Well, this the look. This what you getting. This the A.
Okay.
If they can't do what you need them to do, then you probably should look somewhere else. But I think before we close, that there are two things I'd like to touch on. I'd like for you to just sort of, you mentioned about goals, right? And so, how do we encourage one another and our listening audience about the importance of goals for our own mental health and well-being, right? Because I think when we have our own and we're not chasing somebody else's, right? Then we have our own, then it really, I think it defines us. It gives us our purpose. I think, so I'd love for you to talk about, or just share from a therapeutic standpoint, right? Why goals are important, right? But not in a way that we become these, we become part of the population of high functioning Black women, right? Who are depressed.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to just sort of talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I can come from the therapist side and also the overachiever side. I'm a little bit of both. So I was, for one, I believe goals, are the lifeblood. Like, they give us life, they give us excitement. I think if we ever become complacent or depressed, and we have the question, like, what are we excited about? What is something that we're looking forward to? What do we truly want for ourselves? Because I think everybody has goals in the back of our minds, but we go through seasons of depression or having feelings of like worthlessness and stuff like that can affect us moving forward and pursuing those goals. And so goals, again, give our lives meaning. They give us something to stay accountable to work towards, to get us up in the morning. They're kind of like lifeblood. They're very exciting. And so for me, I just love goal setting. I love planning. I'm always it's so funny. My boyfriend said something funny the other month. He said, "You're always up to something." He said, "You will come out of nowhere talking about, yo, I'm gonna go do I like boxing. I'm gonna do boxing." And then he said, "I'll come the next day. I got a boxing match next week." And I just feel like it's so healthy. And so for me, I use goals too to help me if I'm going through a season where God is making me wait for something. I'll also use goals to kind of shift my focus, so I'm not becoming so consumed with rushing the process in one area, but I'm able to kind of take my attention somewhere else. For example, I had a delay in my licensure. Something happened where I finished all my hours. I'm 1,500 hours over. I'm actually over in hours. And there's an error on my form that has nothing to do with me. I go to sit for my exam. I'm ready. I done studied. I done did all this stuff. Now, all I got to do is sit for this exam, which I've studied extensively for. And there's an error on my form that has nothing to do with me. And it's a delayed process, right? And so now this process is going to get in the way of me making more money as a clinician, open up workshop opportunities. So me being the goal-oriented woman I am, I get frustrated with delays, especially if it's going to hold up a coin. What? And so I'm like, oh, I gotta go find this person. This person better change this thing. I'm finna go and find and harass them. I'm just gonna hit them up. And it was like everything I was doing, God was like, I was like putting up shots and God was blocking the shots. And I was like, God, like, what you doing? Like, don't you want me to make more money? And so, story short, I ended up hearing back from this person. And it was actually someone else that I knew who was able to reach out, and they responded, But that alone, I ended up changing my focus to like fitness. So I actually set a goal for myself to do a bodybuilding show, right? So now I'm like lifting all these heavy weights. I was able to kind of shift my focus away from the clinician side of things. And so now I'm like lifting all these crazy weights, and I'm having this crazy starting this nutrition plan, right? Now I'm shifting my focus, but I feel like goals can just help us to put our attention towards something, and I'm getting in shape, right? So I feel like goals just kind of help you look forward to something and work towards something and hold yourself accountable. And it also brings a different enjoyment out of life.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much. Rox, is there anything, are you laughing at me, Rox? Is there
No,
anything in the chat?
no. I love that though, that you're like, you know, I think sometimes we don't realize when we keep bumping our head trying to do something. It's like, you were like, wait a minute. Like, here I am, everything I'm throwing up is brick ball. I'm going to leave that alone for a second, trust the process, and focus on something else. And when you're waiting to come through, you're working on something else. I think that's such a great part of like our reflection too, of knowing what our limits are, what gets us frustrated. You already have put that time and research in yourself to know, like, I'm going to be frustrated with this. I'm going to be frustrated with this if I keep trying to hit it.
You are funny. Rox, is there? Oh, good. I'm sorry.
Also thinking about how, as a coach, like, you know, I think when we had talked before about getting a coach through the pandemic and using that time to like of waiting to be on progress or something, it just like made me think, like, hearing your story even again, it's just reconfirmed that you really are a guru in this area. And it's not because, oh, you went and got another degree or another license, but you've already like mastered going through your life. And not to say you won't have another level to learn, but that was like one of the things about us making sure we're talking about these different topics is people that have like mastered that, right? And that's one of your trophies of that, is that you've mastered that. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming on with us and really reconfirming, like, we had a whole day of gurus, people that volunteered their time to lift up the topic of mental health that is really not talked about. I don't think I've heard of a person talking about, oh, I went through this, I got a coach, I went through this. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that with us. And can you share with us how to connect with you, how to get get together for coaching? And I know I had connected you with Richard, so hopefully now that you're finished your process, we can do a training together. But if you can share all of that good stuff.
Absolutely. So I can be reached at AnnielleTimmons.com, and you guys, of course, you can see my handles on social media for I am Annielle. So I have work-life harmony, burnout prevention trainings for companies and businesses. Also speak on mental health to the Black community, but also to any mental health events that you may be having. You want a fresh perspective and a fresh speaker to empower your audience to prioritize their mental health. You know, I remove that stigma by talking about myself and self-disclosure. I believe that people may not always listen to someone who just has these skills, but someone who has lived this, right? This ethos of personal development and healing and wellness. And so AnnielleTimmons.com. You can also, like I said, connect with me, shoot me an email. You know, I'm so limited in the insurance I take right now, but soon I'll be able to take more for the therapy side of things. But, you know, life coaching, if you want to reach out to me, absolutely, you know, AnnielleTimmons.com. And again, if you have an event that you want me to be a part of, a podcast, definitely hit me up at I am Annielle. And I'm also on Facebook, of course, Annielle Timmons.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for just, you know, as we make our way through the rest of this IG takeover. Again, I don't know what Roxanne is on. I'm like, good Lord. But it has been tremendous. And I've got pages, almost like a couple of pages of notes, right? Not just from you, but throughout. And there's this common theme about, you know, relationships and about making our mental health a priority. And it is okay not to be okay, right? And that therapy isn't a dirty word. And so thank you for helping us in this moment make mental health and wellness in the Black community sexy again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you both for having me. Have a blessed one, everyone.
Okay, take care. All right.
So we'll be back again at 4. I'm going to take 15 minutes to get my mind reset again. Go back inside. Andrea, I know Dr. Adam is on.
I saw, hey, Dr. B, and my friend Claudia. She is on. She's amazing. Claudia is an absolute beast.
Hi, Claudia.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to take 15,
okay.
Come back. But Richard will be on live
at 4?
Yes, at 4 for a great talk with Dr.
Okay.
Adam Vandelli.
Great. I'll be back on, but I'll be on as a listener. Okay. Thanks, Foxy. I'll talk to you later.
If you guys can't join us, we'll be on today till 9:30. So join us again in 15 minutes.